in this program that we were conducting for them, why don't you go to the university belt? And this is where it's a whole district full of universities where you have over 1 million young people every day going there for their classes. And we said, go talk to them, find out what are they, what phone, what telco are they using? Well, they figured, because in that particular university belt, they figured mostly the people there are the class C and D, okay? In other words, the masses, not the rich people. Okay, what did they find? They couldn't find any of these young people using their telephone service. They were all using the upper class, the higher class telephone service. Much to their surprise. They assumed that, well, we are the cheaper, etc. We associate with the masses, therefore it's the masses who will be using our services. Not with the young people. So we told them, talk to them, find out. What did they find out? Well, the young people, they saw that the rich people were using this particular phone company. Okay? And they aspired to be associated with the richer people. And so they wanted to have the same telephone service. They wanted to use the same telephone service. So it was a big blow to their existing assumptions. But nobody ever bothered to question it. And I've seen so many examples like that. And to me, it's the existence of these assumptions and mental models and mindsets, especially amongst the people at the top, that tend to constrain innovation further below. I've seen this, sorry to say, I've seen this amongst my colleagues in the faculty and in my school. This mental model that we know better than our students. And every day we are waking up to the fact that our students have a lot to teach us. So we have to put ourselves in a frame of mind where we are prepared to question our assumptions.
Thank you. Would anybody from the speakers would like to add from the rest of government comments?
Well, if I may just respond briefly to the question. First question, if I understand correctly, is do you start with a product or you start with a business model? Well, the thing about innovation is that it can come from many directions. So in some cases, the idea is in the business model innovation. In some cases, it could be a new product feature idea. So there's no one single way to achieve innovations. But the key, however, is that you need to validate your idea, as being pointed out, that you may start with a product feature, but you need to validate that it's really what some customer may want or need, as well articulated just now. Or if you assume a new business model may disrupt the existing incumbents and achieve some competitive advantage, you need to validate that in fact, this model can actually work. So I don't think you should have a single way of thinking about innovations. In fact, innovation can come from many directions.
Well, thank you, Professor Wong. I think let's move to the second question. Is related to the ethical issues in...
Well, first of all, let me say historically, before the current intellectual property regime is being well entrenched, most of the advanced country firms, they steal ideas from one another. And in fact, it's only the advanced country that actually once they become strong, then they entrench the root. So in a sense, latecomer do face a regime which is to some sense a bit unfair to them. My friend in Harjun Chang in Cambridge University likes to say that the so-called kicking away the ladder hypocrisy of the advanced country. In other words, when they themselves develop, they take and imitate others and so on, but once they become rich, they say that latecomer country cannot do the same. But the fact is that they themselves had not developed initially by doing everything on their own. They imitated enormously themselves to get to where they are. So there's a bit of double standard. So historically, I think that's the situation. But the reality, of course, is that we are in a world now governed by intellectual property regimes, whether you like it or not. And the key idea about creative imitation is not so much that you rip off other people's intellectual property without compensating them, but the idea is that you develop some additional innovative elements of your own. So in the jargon of intellectual property is that you have background, foreground, IP. So the idea now is that the original guy has a set of IP, but you introduce some new inventive element and you have some IP. And now you can get them to, in a bargaining table, to say, well, in future going forward, you can't do what you want to do because you infringe on some of mine, and I can't do what I want to do because I infringe on yours. So let's have some intellectual property agreement. And in this case, it's a cross-licensing and so on. Of course, some of the lawsuit you have heard is because there's a question of dispute about how much of this actually have been infringed or not. So it's not a clear-cut case that Samsung stole a lot of or copied Apple, because Apple also copied things from Samsung as well. This is a complex reality. And the key challenge for latecomers is to be able to get into this bargaining table by having some innovative elements of your own. So that your IP now also block the original innovator from further innovate in certain new area. So I believe that the idea of creative imitation is not all about stealing. I think you can operate it in an entirely intellectual property sort of a compliance way. But still, the key thing is that innovation is never about doing something completely new on your own. The idea is to take what other people have done and find what new innovative angle you can add to it, and that allow you to sort of build upon the other's innovative idea and allow you to now to bargain and share on the IP rights with others. So I hope that sort of in a very summarized way address what I think is a very complex issue.
Professor Wong, thank you so much. I think we can move to response to the third questions, and I would like to offer this to Professor Namasan, please.
At first, regarding the uncertainty of radical innovation, people believe that because it is a market and the technology is difficult, of course it's a major purpose, but at the same time, sometimes radical innovation fail because of the internal matters. Then if we control well, the success rate will be increased. Of course, in the radical innovation, the success rate is very low. 1/10, 1/100, or sometimes just 1/1000, like the medical pharmaceutical industries. Sometimes there is a very basic dilemmas. CEO just stay in a position 2 to 4 or maybe 6 years, but radical innovation takes 10 or 20 years in our own cases. How can we adjust? That is a question. Then, regardless of the position of the CEO, if we fix the project, then the success rate will be increased. And in that purpose, government or the national innovation system might be helpful. Sometimes the government recommend the industry to make a union to the just invite first-class engineers, set up a very high target, and let the companies challenge to attain that target. The example is a solar system. About 30 years ago, the government set up the solar system renewable energies. Then technology was invented. However, they forgot market cultivation. German companies very smart, just to subsidize to the people, the company, to give some subsidization system. Then they develop a market. And today, both technological or the market cultivation, the role of the government might be important. However, too much interface by the government is not good for creative innovation. Today, regarding the Japanese government, used to be they set up a so-called roadmap, technological roadmap, just a forecast 20 or 30 years. By that, industry or company can focus on the radical innovation. But today, very ironically, company will avoid the technological roadmap. If they follow that one, they cannot make some differentiated product. So company again back to think about by themselves to create some differentiated product.
Well, thank you. I would like also to offer to the other speakers to respond very briefly to the questions about what models for the private or the government bodies to enhance the capability of innovations. I think we can start with the Professor Florian.
Well, speaking of government bodies, as I said, as I mentioned, I was in Singapore just a couple of days ago, and visiting the MULYA'S campus, visiting the Business Analytics Center, and I was really impressed that a great push for that center didn't come not only from IBM and US, which got together, but actually the EDB, the Economic Development Board of Singapore, government body, as you know, and the IBM people who were there in that meeting were telling me that they had never encountered a more energetic group of people than these so-called bureaucrats from the EDB. It's hard to imagine government people being energetic and innovative, but I think that's probably the kind of government agency that a country needs if a country is to really move forward and quickly. I can only wish we had something like that in the Philippines.
Thank you. Professor Rito.
Jakarta is the mega city, so the quality of infrastructure of Jakarta should be different from a city with only a population 1 million. And the innovation is a play important roles in developing infrastructure for providing good services for citizens and providing good profit for the business. And the imperial city is important because they drive to make the convergence between the government interest and the business interest. So that's why the business sector can create more business that's useful for the citizen by using resources, city resources, more effectively.
Thank you, Professor Rito. Professor Wong.
Well, my own view is that for many developing economies that are in the latecomer stage, rather than just focus exclusively on government push of R&D, public research institutes and so on, there are a lot more to begin at that early stage to really encourage more creative use and creative imitations. And creative use means you must be willing to open up and let the latest technology to be made available so that your own people, the entrepreneurial energy is released to make use of this new technology to solve problems that are unique or that they have good knowledge about. I mean, as an example, Singapore has a very competitive port, and one of the things that contributes to its competitive port is that it tries to make use of the latest technology coming from outside. So the Singapore port did not invent any of the new technology, but it was a very early adopter. It was a creative adopter of technology. Like for example, pattern recognition. When a container moving, you have words that are or letter written on a corrugated surface. So it's a pattern recognition algorithm software to do it. Now, we don't have to invent this new technology, but because it's an available technology, but you apply it to the port for the first time, then you gain advantage. So therefore, I believe the government should encourage more creative use of existing technology. And this mentality that we must compete in every high-tech industry and therefore protect our industry. Other people have car industry, we must have our own car industry. Other people have big steel industry, we must have our own big steel industry. It's not necessarily the case. If you are a good user of this technology and then you focus on area where you have other complementary advantages, like you are very strong in agriculture, you may be very strong in maritime transport because you are a country of thousands of islands. By applying existing technology to the area where you have intimate need and problem, you probably will achieve a lot of innovation in service, business model. And only after that, when you achieve this high level of sort of adaptive and innovative capability, then the innovative element will start to come in. And so, to support this, you actually need to have more government policies to actually encourage and support the use of new technology, encourage more flow of ideas from overseas, and encourage the people to go out of your own economy and see for yourself what are the new ideas that are around in other parts of the world, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and adapt this. So this openness to new ideas and make quick use of them, adapt them creatively in your own economy, I feel should be a major focus of government policies. Not just on this technology push that we must be able to compete with other people in all the very technology complex industry. Learning to use them, I feel, should be a major focus of government policy, especially for latecomer economies.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wong. I know there's a lot of hand raises to ask questions, but unfortunately we do very limited time. So I think what we have already discussed here is related to innovation is imperative that we really need in all levels, in the schools, in the business education, the management education, the cities, firms levels, the nations and countries levels. But also we have a lot of challenge, the issue that we have to face to tackle in order to be more innovative. But again, from the discussion, we do have alternatives in order to be more innovative. So again, we do need to do our homeworks, that the homeworks from Professor Vittorio, I guess, to think about, to be able to be more competitive. So on behalf of the Prasetiya MULYA Global Scores Networks, I would like to thank you for all distinguished speakers, for the very provocative opening ideas about the innovations. And I think the next one that we have to move for the next activities for now. Okay, thank you very much for your time.